The 1920s were an age of dramatic social and political change. For the first time, more Americans lived in cities than on farms. The nation's total wealth more than doubled between 1920 and 1929, and this economic growth swept many Americans into an affluent but unfamiliar consumer society. People from coast to coast bought the same goods, thanks to nationwide advertising and the spread of chain stores, listened to the same music, did the same dances, and even used the same slang. Many Americans were uncomfortable with this new, urban, sometimes racy, mass culture. In fact, for most people in the United States, the 1920s brought more conflict than celebration. However, for a small handful of young people in the nation's big cities, the 1920s were roaring indeed. Ernest Hemingway was an American novelist, short story writer, and journalist. He was born on July 21, 1899, and died on July 2, 1961. This made him part of the lost generation. Hemingway produced most of his work between the mid-1920s and the mid-1950s, and won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1954. He published 7 novels, 6 short story collections, and 2 non-fiction works. In 1918, Hemingway went overseas to serve in World War I as an ambulance driver in the Italian army. The day he arrived, a munitions factory exploded and he had to carry mutilated bodies and body parts to a makeshift morgue. It was an immediate and powerful initiation into the horrors of war. For his service, he was awarded the Italian Silver Medal of Bravery, but soon sustained injuries that landed him in a hospital in Milan.
Scott Fitzgerald was born on September 24, 1896, Minnesota. After graduating from the Newman School in 1913, Fitzgerald decided to stay in New Jersey to continue artistic development at the Princeton University. At Princeton, he firmly dedicated himself to honing his craft as a writer, writing scripts for the Princeton Famous Triangle Club, musicals, as well as frequent articles for the Princeton Tiger Humor magazine and stories for the Nassau Literary magazine. However, Fitzgerald's writing came at the expense of his coursework. He was placed on academic probation, and in 1917 he dropped out of school to join the US Army. Afraid that he might die in World War I, with his literary dreams unfulfilled, in the weeks before reporting to duty, Fitzgerald hastily wrote a novel called The Romantic Egoist. However, he joined the army in 1917. He was rejected before he was ever deployed. His most literary works were made in the 1920s, which made him part of the lost generation.
I will tell you God's truth. God's truth about myself. I am the son of some very wealthy people. Sadly, they're all dead now. I lived in all the capitals of Europe, collecting jewels, hunting big game, painting a little. And came the war, old sport. Every allied government gave me a decoration.
Major J. Gatsby for valor extraordinary.
That's right.
Could it all be true? Gatsby. He had an extraordinary sense of hope, but I had the uneasy feeling that he was guarding secrets.
Milk tears, I did this for you.
Gatsby. I'd like to know who he is and what he does.
Gatsby? What Gatsby?
My boss!
Mr. Carraway, this is my good friend, Mr. Maya Wolfshot.
I understand you're looking for a business connection.
Happens to be confidential. You understand?
Imagine me and you, I do.
I'm certainly glad to see you again.
I think about you day and night. It's only right.
I'm certainly glad to see you as well.
Just saw was typical for the Roaring Twenties. After World War I, people were optimistic and materialistic. It became important to show your wealth to others. Partying was one of the ways to show your wealth. In The Great Gatsby, Gatsby throws a youth party where the most rich people attend. This indicates the importance of phantasm to be part of a most wealthy community. Gatsby gave this party in the hope that Daisy would attend one day. Earlier, Gatsby and Daisy had a relationship, but because of the war, the relationship ended and Daisy married the rich businessman Tom. Even though Daisy and Gatsby still loved each other, Daisy married Tom because of his money and prestige. This shows the shallowness of the Roaring Twenties. In contrast to Fitzgerald, Hemingway wrote his stories objective because of his journalistic career. Fitzgerald criticized the American dream in his books, but on the other side there was Hemingway who wrote his criticism in papers and short stories.